Anambra. It's still Good Morning Anambra right here on ABS TV. And the topic we'll be exploring or talking about this morning is the move to repeal the VAPP Act by Nigerian Senate. Well, it's no longer news that the Nigerian Senate wants to repeal that bill. That's the Violence Against Persons Prohibition VAPP Act. And it has passed the second reading in the Senate, and the women are very concerned because it will be like throwing a big blow on women, because that is an act against that will prohibit violence against people, and then all the things that it's written there. Senator Jibrin Ista, representing Kogi East, is the person pushing to repeal the Violence Against the Persons Prohibition Act. He's claiming that the definition of consent, it needs further differentiation. Well, we talk about it and how it's going to affect the women's folk in our society today. My name is Chidima Orama, and welcome to the discussion segment.
Anam Ajuluchuku Okabwe.
All right, we have our guests also seated with us in the studios this morning, and they will be helping us to understand better what is even contained under art, and then what are the consequences if this particular art is being repealed by the Senate. Okay, so we have with us in the studios of Anambra Broadcasting Service this morning, Hope Ukui, the Executive Director.
Executive Director, Intercom Africa. She is the Southeast Coordinator of Child Protection Network, CPN, and the former Chairman of Anambra State's VAPP Implementation Committee. Good morning. Glad to have you this morning, Hope Okoye.
Good morning.
Also, we have Barrister Ngozi Madechesi, lawyer and the Executive Director of DESCON Global Initiative as Human Rights and Good Governance Centered NGO. Good morning, Barrister Ngozi.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the crew we have to be discussing this program this morning with us. But before then, let us just get a clip of the senator where he was in the upper chamber of the House trying to get the bill. We'll be back shortly after this video. Don't go anywhere.
The second reading of the Violence Against Persons Act, Amendment Bill 2024, SB 368. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 28 February 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibrin Issa to move the motion for the bill to be read second time.
Distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, very distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, I rise to move that the bill for an act to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill 2024 to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders, and for related matters, 2024 SB 368.
Proceed.
Proceed. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to lead the debate on this very important and disturbing trend in Nigeria. Mr. President, my highly distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead debate on this very important bill. Where are the papers? Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead debate on this very important bill seeking to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact an act to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders and for related matters. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, due to the far-reaching nature of this bill, let me crave your indulgence to extensively highlight the background, which I believe will not only provide the proper context for this legislative initiative, but also motivate the National Assembly to accelerate the legislative process in enacting this bill. This bill was enacted in 2015 against the backdrop of the rising cases of violence, especially domestic violence against women. The initial bill sought protection for women from male domination violence. In the face of opposition to its obvious gender bias nature, the promoters renamed it, tinkered with some of its provisions, introduced stringently gender-neutral language, and successfully obtained its passage. Its explanatory memorandum states that it prohibits all forms of violence against persons in private and public life and provides protection and remedies for victims and punishment of offenders. Upon close scrutiny of the Act, it becomes obvious that it contains provisions that are inimical to the realization of its objectives. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, going through the provisions of the Act, it is obvious that it is plagued by substantial and drafted challenges. This underscores the necessity for a holistic reform of the Act to bring the provisions in line with the realities of societal change and drafting standards to effective dispensation of justice. Some of the major areas of concern in the Act are highlighted as follows. There are several strict liability offenses in the Act. There are instances where mental element is not needed, but only the physical element, which is all that is required to complete the offense. This therefore calls for a review to introduce elements of intention. The provision of fine and imprisonment of the Act have become infinitesimal to have meaningful deterrent effect. This is particularly so in view of the current economic realities in Nigeria. In Section 1 of the Act, the offense of rape needs particular attention. There is need to make a distinction between absence of consent and consent obtained by fraud, undue influence, and other unlawful means. The Act contains inadequate provisions for compensation of the victims of violence. The penal focus is on fines and imprisonment, with little on compensation.
Said at the Senate chamber there, trying to repeal the move for the VAPP Act by the Nigerian Senate. As a barrister and as a woman, and what is going around your mind, as in, how do you begin to even have confidence in the people that we elected to protect our rights, you understand, in the upper chamber, based on what we just saw being read out by the Nigerian Senate?
Thank you very much. I'll start by saying that the VAPP law was enacted in 2015 by the then former President Goodluck Jonathan. And the essence of enacting this law was essentially to address cases of gender-based violence. Because issues of gender-based violence became so much and there were no laws to actually adequately address them. So this VAPP law was enacted to address issues. For example, all these harmful traditional practices. Other laws may have related sections of their law addressing it, but none has actually captured it the way it should. The widowhood practice in many parts of the country. The practice of the cultural practice of actually ostracizing somebody. The practice of chasing out somebody from the lack of right of inheritance. This act addressed these issues and so many other social issues, like child abuse. When a man abuses his wife, their abuses are different. People think abuse is all about beating. A man can abuse his wife emotionally. A man can abuse his wife by not providing. The VAPP law made adequate provisions for this. Now he's talking about consent, the definition of rape. The definition of rape by the provisions of the VAPP Act, you say Section 1 in Anambra State is Section 3 of the VAPP law. The provision as regards to consent is very clear. He said where consent it was not obtained or was obtained by fraud, I think this has covered all grounds. I don't know what more he wants to say about consent. We already know that a child, that's any person below the age of 18, that consent can never be considered in any act offending that person. So when he's talking about the issue of consent not being properly addressed, I've read over that law again and I'm looking at where there is a lacuna. There's the issue of compensation. He's saying that the compensation is not adequate. Yet, the compensation will deal with the nature of the case, what the judge has decided, how the magistrate looked at it, the offense committed, and the person will award compensation that's adequate for such an offense. I want to say that, yes, the lawmakers have a right to review and amend laws, but actually repealing a law that had just been enacted in 2015, and states are yet to domesticate. Anambra State domesticated in 2017, right? We are good, we are fast to do that. But some states are yet to, some states just currently and presently training partners that will be involved in this law, to actually make this law very operational in their state. And now we are talking about repealing them. We should be talking about amendment.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Ngozi, Paris and Ngozi. Let's come to you, Hope. From all Jibrin said, he's saying that the law, the act is not even comprehensive enough. Now my question is, just like Barrister said, that we can actually leave the law and look for amendment. Why repealing it? That's the question now. Does it mean that they have something else that they are not telling us?
Okay. Being in the field, served as the VAPP coordinator for the implementation of VAPP law in Anambra State, and still serving in the civil society, still using the law. I will tell you practically, if you look at the available laws, like she said, the criminal code law, the penal code, the child right law, we found out that, and other laws, we found out that is only the VAPP law. I'm using the word law at the state level, but you know that the VAPP Act is at the federal, and for us to use it, each state has to domesticate. And I'm telling you, Imo State just domesticated 2021, and they are just training police officers to use the law. Even in Anambra State, a lot of people are not even aware of this law. We are intensifying effort to even bring it to the awareness of the people and also to encourage the usage. So if the main thing I've seen here is this, I must tell you, it pains me as a person that looking at, he that is even quoting the economic situation of the country, looking at the true problem in the country, talking about repealing a law, I don't think is misplacement of value. It's misplacement of value. They are not actually addressing the problem of the country. He coming from the Kogi, I expect that he should be promoting and sponsoring a bill that will actually address how to maximize the resources that God has endured in the Kogi state, which all of you know about, the iron and whatever. If it's what he's talking about, how to use it to for him to start talking about repealing of this law. In this law, the VAPP law has taken time to define rape comprehensively. Initially, if you look at the code laws, and he's talking about penetration through the vagina. can only talk about adult as rape, child as defilement. But you find out that because of the different ways people gratify sexual satisfaction, a lot of practices has come on board. So people can cleverly defile and rape our children and even adults. The issue of consent, like she said, most of these people defile and rape our boys, our young men. And if you look at the existing laws, without this VAPP, you find out that you cannot be able to prosecute who rapes a young boy or a young man or even a full-fledged man, because the issue of consent, they can get it by coercion, they can get it by deception, they can get it by threat, they can get it by force, they can even use substance to induce the person, they can even impersonate. These are the comprehensive aspects that this law made available, that even somebody who pretends to be somebody's spouse and gets that person into sexual activity, maybe at the end the person now realized, I was thinking it's my husband, I was thinking it's my wife, and only for me to realize that somebody else. This VAPP provided for it. So it's all encompassing. So I don't know what the fault he's finding there, but I think that that aspect of definition is actually hitting some people hard. So they are trying to, that's my own takeout here. Because if you look at, in fact, the major thing that the VAPP law has is that definition of rape that has to do with penetrating through the vagina, through the anus, through the mouth, with any part of your body, or even an object, anything else, to another person's part, without the person's consent. Either you get that consent by all these means I've mentioned, and you look at that, even when you think that you had a consent of somebody who is below the age of 18 years, you thought that the person gave consent. You cannot find out the child right law come to play to also add that, no, even though this is a young man who is up to 17 years, and you felt that he gave you access to, gave consent, and the child right law say, is it material? So is it material the child gave you consent? Because we all know that person cannot vote in this country. He is below the age of 18 years, he's still a child. So consent is immaterial. So when you now look at the provision of the VAPP law, you look at the definition, you have penetrated the young man through the anus, and he's a young man, he's less than 18 years. You cannot say he gave you consent. So you find that the law has actually told them. Like she also said, when you look at this law, it looks at domestic relationship, define domestic relationship, and it actually brought out a lot of domestic violence going on. That's why he tried to describe who is into domestic relationship. He now brought about this law now protected, because the law is not protecting only women. It protects women, protects children, protects the men themselves. It's a matter of who want to use this instrument to get justice. Now, this domestic is now provided where there's something he said that I laughed. Intent. So you may want to prove that it's not the intention of a man to maybe abuse his wife. Do you understand? Maybe it's just by mistake.
You know, most of them feel that once you get married to a woman,
so you can correct the woman bit that is not intentional to violate, because that is what I'm trying to interpret. So what is that the problem of the VAPP law? Why they want to repeal it? You are talking of intent. So okay, if you want to violate a woman, you want to tell us whether it was intentional or not. I think that is what he's trying to say. So you find that if a woman is being violated after you enter into a domestic relationship with a woman, you had children, you abandon them, you leave, you go and marry another woman or bring another woman into it. The VAPP law provided. You have a relationship, you also have obligation. You have to provide. So that's when now begin to abandonment. Is the crime under the VAPP law. Forceful separation. From the issues like where a man will take a woman out, forcefully separate the children from them. It's a crime. The law provided for it. It also talk about ejection, where you forcefully eject a woman out, is also a crime. So all these things is all encompassing. Now he's talking about compensation. Compensation.
I only heard where he talked about mental state of mind too. You understand? Because now, where does that apply in this VAPP law? Can a man or a woman decide that this man is so abusive, I can no longer stay with him? Or would the VAPP law now come and say, okay, because the man is unstable mentally, you people should cohabit?
We all know that if there are times we say, are we sure this person is okay? Maybe we begin to question the mental state. But you know that a lot of things is happening, a lot of transfer aggression, a lot of pressure. People are under, a lot of things are happening that people will lose it. So maybe that temporal, if I should call it temporal madness, or I don't know the right word to use before I use it, but you find out that a lot of people are losing it. Psychologically, there are pressures. So you will now justify abuse because of the pressure around. If somebody is mentally sick and the person is taken to the hospital, we have special consultants, they now ascertain the mental state of the person. The law, while the law is being implemented, they will put it to consideration and see how they will navigate around it, ascertaining medically that this person has a medical challenge. So it has a way, the law know how to handle it. But I don't see why it should be reason why you know one painful thing that is paining me about this? Repeal this law, that means nobody makes reference to it again. And the resources for all the state to start mobilizing for redomesticating the new one is another thing. When we have not even finished, and where is he taking us? Is he actually helping us at all?
Excuse me, please. Let me address two things. You talked about intent. Maybe, let me talk about it from the legal palace. Maybe he's talking about intent, like in criminal law, they want to call menstrual and actus reus. Menstrual is the intention to do something, then actus reus is the actual doing something, and each is an offense. He's maybe trying to say that the VAPP law does not capture intent. Maybe I intend to rape this girl, I eventually did not rape her, but everything I have done, I have set it in motion to do, but I didn't do it. The VAPP law captured it.
That's attempted rape.
Attempted. It captured it. That's the intent. Then when he's talking about mental retarded, I think he's talking about language. That perhaps we shouldn't use languages that are derogatory, like actually addressing any person, like using mental retarded. You know, like sometimes in disability, we now say person with disability, we don't say blindness or not. Yeah. Fine. These are rules for review and amendment. Exactly. It doesn't call for repeal. I also want to say that, you know, as we are now, so many cases are in court being tried with this.
Okay, so what will happen to this?
What will happen to these
what will be
cases?
the consequences
Now,
of repealing this for victims of domestic violence?
Thank you very much. These cases are in court as we speak now. Now, for those cases in magistrate court that will now appeal to the High Court, which law? No, let now craft my grandson. If you repeal the VAPP law, you've not given me the tools to do things. Because, like she actually said, these cases are in the communities. Most NGOs will pick so much cases in the communities. I tell you that sometimes it's overwhelming, that even the Ministry of Health Affairs, FIDA and all that, the family court is overflowing.
You need to go to the special SGBV court.
Special court is overflowing. It's a very serious issue.
Serious as it is to Nigerians, but not to our elected citizens. You understand? Now, what were the considerations into getting VAPP law into existence? Because Nigeria, as we all know, multifaceted, different culture, different tradition, different ethnic group, and now you have somebody from the north fighting against this thing. Is that just one person speaking for the voice of all, or is it just the VAPP law probably not capturing certain aspects of the law in order to protect people's religion, people's way of living? Take, for instance, in the north, 30 years old, 50 years old, free to get married, and was probably the same obtainable in this part of the country. So the VAPP law, in all the whole heads that came together to make it, put it to work, did they consider these areas, these shortfalls that doesn't cut across the entire country?
If I'm country to VAPP law, like you said, is all encompassing. One is gender inclusive.
So now somebody that forcefully the parent gives a child.
You are talking of the child right law here.
No, we are coming. It addressed it. It's one of the harmful
That child marriage.
You can only give a child out to be married. I know that is the area you are coming from.
Yeah.
Maybe it offends
the
part of the north where the penal code is operational. Maybe child rape acts too.
So that could be an infringement on some people's right to live their life the way their religion permits.
Let me come in here.
Yeah.
You know, when they use each time they enact an act, is at the federal level, especially being implemented at the FCT. For each state to use that law, they have to domesticate. This aspect you are talking about, that's why you find out when you talk about Zamfara and all these things, they have refused to domesticate the child right law. If they have to, they were specific, they have to expunge that aspect of child marriage, because that is the issue, or forceful marriage. Because if you may not use the word force, because they had groomed them as part of their religion and culture, they don't see it as a force, even though that is encroaching and abusing the rights of those children. But because they have come to grow up and groomed into it, they didn't know or see it as their right. But the truth remains that their right is being infringed on. So they will not want to domesticate it. That's why if anybody commits such an act in that area, they might not use the child right law. There might be no child right law to be used to, prosecute that person. So the VAPP law is specific. Those things that the child right law has taken care of, they were actually there. But the main thing the VAPP law did was, having gone through, like she said, some of these laws did not actually comprehensively address some issues. That's why you talk about female genital mutilation, you talk about traditional harmful practices, disinheritance of women, economic abuse. Economic abuse is all encompassing, where you see a man possibly marrying a woman, working or doing business, forcing them to depend on them, a way of controlling them and this their right. So the VAPP law is all encompassing that provided all this. So it's like they felt that we are being tied with this law. I'm just being, if I should use the word biased, that's the way I'm thinking, because I cannot see any justifiable reason why they are talking about repealing this law, because he's also quoting in this that there is a repealed law that he's even saying that the VAPP Act refers to, because it's repealed. That means if this VAPP law is repealed, nobody makes reference to that law again.
Exactly. No, I still want to come back to what you said. Those cases that are in court now, what happens to them?
Good. These cases that are in court, if this law is being repealed, I know for those cases, they are already being tried, fine. But one may want to appeal. If I want to appeal on a matter, how do I begin now? Which law will offer me that platform? We all know our Nigeria and the processes they will go through, enacting laws and all that. But there are ongoing cases, like I rightly said, if you ever go to any of these gender-based violence courts, you will be shocked. You'll be shocked. You'll be really shocked to see what is happening to underage children, boys, girls. I tell you, 4 years. 4 years. You'll be shocked. So these are the things we are talking about. If this law is being repealed, if Anambra wants to appeal, what do I do? Do I have to wait till they enact this law? Or do I appeal?
on the existing law that is being appealed. And somebody, all it takes is my colleague to just file a paper and say, no, this is not, it can't stand. That this law is not an instant law. And that is it.
And there is another good thing the VAPP law provided. The protection order. Yeah. The restraining order.
Yes.
The getting order from the court to protect the victim.
Yeah.
By the time all these things, I wish that,
talking about that protection order, let me tell you. And that's one thing again. You see, this protection order is so beautiful, so well crafted that one, the complainant can apply for a protection order. The defendant can apply. If it's a minor, a social worker, like I am a social worker, I can apply. If I picked up a case from the community, I need that this person needs a protection order, I'll do the necessary thing. And
the implementation to that, how swift is it going to be?
Oh, what? A protection order, you apply for a protection order. Of course, the court will hear all parties. It will be served. The necessary process will be followed. And the other party, you, the complainant, applied, of course, you want a protection order. The respondent will be given an opportunity to show cause why that order should not be issued against him or her. I want you to appreciate him or her. It could be a man, it could be a woman. Yeah. Then, while that is happening, there will be an interim order that may last for 8 days. Within these 8 days, the respondent is expected to come and show cause why that protection order will not be issued against him or her. Okay. And the beauty of it is that even when you appeal, the protection order will still be enforced. It doesn't set it aside until a proper application will be made to set it aside.
Since this VAPP Act is all-encompassing, just like you've been pointing out here, and now it seems like it's only women that are against this repeal. Repealing this act. What about men? Does it mean that they are not concerned, or they don't really want to know what happens to their boy child? Because it's already contained in the act. So why is it that it's just only women? Because when you go over the social media, you see women talking about against it and all that. Why is it that it's only women that are concerned about the repealing of this particular act? Okay,
one thing you have to know is that from the ab initio, human rights is for everybody, but we found out that women has not actually enjoyed that equal human rights from all the practices, the religion, cultural, all whatever. But we have men who always support the cause of women. Why it is the people that it affects most, if we have to use the word, that because if the women that are the majority at the receiving end, that this violence is for everybody, but when you now look at the percentage of people that is being affected, you find out that a lot of even the difference between the physical strength of a man and a woman, do you understand? There's a lot of factors and culture that promoted that most women are at the most receiving end. Men are supporting, but very few. But we are also encouraging, because when they now see, I'm sure it's because they've not really understood. You may not fight for what you don't know. When they understood, maybe as we are discussing now, a lot of them are beginning to hear and to understand that some people, it seems like it's just a law to protect rights. Because that's it. Because the VAPP law say persons, and we say that persons, it could be a man or a woman, a boy or a girl. And from what we have said, the fact that it's just that most of the times, because of the way men are brought up and groomed, even when some of them are dying in silence, they will not speak up. That was one of the things we're encouraging them. They should speak up. There is a law to protect them. Few are coming out too. Some of them are already coming out to use this law. So when more people understand that this law is not meant for women alone, it's for everybody, I believe, and when they begin to see that this law is also there to protect their male children and their daughters, they will also be able to come up to join. But we have to be the women. We should be moving and asking for for the men to help and join hands. I think that's it.
Barrister, let me come to you, Barrister Ngozi. There's this thing, as you guys were talking, I was kind of lost. This VAPP law you're talking about, is there any pamphlet? Is there a website? Is there sensitization amongst the vulnerable? The girl child in secondary school, primary school, the boy child in primary school, secondary school, so as to get to know, one, certain things about your body and the boundaries set for people, you understand? Boundaries set for people. There are certain sensitization that needs to actually go for people to actually know when someone is infringing on their rights. How much sensitization has that gone? Because sincerely speaking, I've not stumbled upon anything other than the fact that as parents are told to tell your child, first and foremost, the no-go areas for your body and stuff like that. But for an organization like yours, I think you guys should take it a step further by creating more awareness. So that people get
think there is a problem right now because we are talking about repealing it and you are talking about going to
because before the repealing of it, or people are not even aware of it.
Existing one. Okay, let me start by saying that in Anambra State, we talk from, we have both the Association of the Child Protection Network. We do a lot of sensitization. We have the Association of Orphan and Vulnerable Persons. We do a lot of sensitization. This is just by the way. Now, there is this project ongoing in Anambra State and being implemented in 5 local governments. It was implemented previously in 5 local governments. It's a global fund project. This project has, as a component of it, gender-based violence sensitization. This is where we go to churches, to market, to schools, public places, and we sensitize people on gender-based violence, and we sensitize people on the rights, and we tell people about the VAPP law. People begin to be aware that they have a right to many things they do not know, that social things are happening, and that social things happening are just not normal. That you speak out, and that we are here to take care of you. That is why I just mentioned to you that the picking of cases in the community has so increased in the last 3 months. Or let me say the last 6 months. Let me say 3. In the last 6 months, there's been so much increase, so much, because these NGOs go everywhere. There are about 15 of them, 15 in this state, sensitizing. And there is no way they go to sensitize, you don't see them picking up at least 1 case. And there are follow-up cases, people that will fall. Like she said, the issue of secrecy. Men don't come out. Men don't speak out. When you find out that when you are sensitizing and you're giving out your numbers and flyers, they'll call you, please, I'm so person. I was in so place where you sensitized. This is my issue.
Okay. Yes, I want to say, like I said, I served as the former VAPP coordinator, that's the implementing coordinating committee. And one of the major things we did, the committee, I served in a dual capacity. I served as the co-chair, Anambra State Child Right Law Implementation Committee, and also the coordinator, VAPP Implementation Coordinating Committee. One of the key roles that we played, and we are still playing because the committees are still existing to ensure implementation of these laws, is awareness creation, both at individual organization capacity and with the support of EU and the state government through the implementation of rule of law and anti-corruption project, the ROLAC project in Anambra State. And we had targeted communities, the grassroots. Not just that, we had structures. Because of the provision of the VAPP law and the child right law, the law provided that we should have LG CRIC, that's local government child rights law implementation committee at the local government, because that's where these things are happening. We also have trained social protection officers who are social welfare officers at the local government. So these are the 21 local government. Whatever is happening at a community, and the community is in a local government. We coordinate from the state level. And now with this present administration, this Soludo administration and the Commissioner for Women Affairs Anambra State, we have seen that it's not just the awareness, but the state taking proactive in the intervention. If you go to that office, the office of the Commissioner for Women Affairs, if you go there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, is a market day.
It's a marketplace.
It's like go, 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 go. If you hear, tell others. So that is it. Because people are seeing, if you see the children are being rescued, that we are forcefully separated, if you see the mediation trying to restore peace in the marriage, if you see the defilement, the rape cases, is no longer, we want to settle, is no longer business as usual. If you go to the magistrate court, the special court for children and gender-based violence court, is a no-go area. You see it overflows. If you go to the high court section of it, these are the structures this state government, this administration has put in place to address it. So people are, and now when they come, whether they know about the VAPP law or not, by the time they bring their case to come, they are now being exposed, and these laws are being used to address their issues. The issues of widowhood practices that all of us are seeing. And if you see the Ministry of Women Affairs report 10 cases in their social media, mind you, they had addressed like 100 cases before that 10 appears.
All right, let's go back to you, Barrister, because I'm so scared of the implication if this particular act is being repealed in Nigeria. But now we talk about some states that have domesticated this particular act. Example is Anambra State.
Yes.
Is there no way, you are a barrister, you understand the law better, is there no way states that have domesticated this particular act stand their ground to say that, we're still going to go with what we have in the state, regardless of what the senators are doing about it, to repeal it? Because, like in Anambra State, we are seeing the results positively.
Yes, you what you said is nice. I read in one of the articles where the senator was saying that he's speaking with regard to the act at the federal level. But remember, when these laws are domesticated, yes, the state have the right to say we are maintaining this law, good. But it's a bad precedent. It's a very bad precedent they are setting there. If they can do that, which means any state can follow. But like you rightly said, a state could say, yes, in as much as we repeal this act, and since we have domesticated this law and it's working for us, we will continue to use this law, or maybe we'll just review our law and make a necessary amendment. But I still maintain that what is happening at the federal as we speak now is a very bad precedent.
Can't other senators stand their ground? Probably states where this thing is working. That's what I'm saying. Anambra State has 3 senators there.
That's what we're looking at there.
You understand? Anambra State has 3 senators. Since it's working in Anambra State and it has been domesticated there, can there be a channel of communication to make sure that this thing is being held where? At the Senate, so that it doesn't go any further?
At this point, I want to use this platform and this forum to say that we are calling on because these senators, those people we are talking about, they may not even know about these things if their attention is not being called. He's sponsoring it, but they may not really understand all these things we are talking about, except if their attention is being. I think it's one of the reasons these things we are speaking here today. If they are not hearing it directly, somebody that knows them is hearing it. And I'm using this forum to call on our 3 senatorial senators representing Anambra State and Anambra State House of Assembly to let them see how they can join forces to call on the state, on the senators at the federal, that this is not a repealing that we need. Let them talk about reviewing and amending the law. That is what is needed, not repealing. So what is needed is let them ask for that law to be looked into and reviewed, just like Anambra State Criminal Code law we know it's over 45 years, and that law has been reviewed. Exactly. And we are expecting the passing of that, because this new reviewed law, if it's being passed into law, it all encompassing now. It has been, you see cases, fine of 20 naira and all to show you that it's no longer, it's long overdue. Okay. But this one now that some states have not even domesticated, you are talking of repealing. Please, we are calling for the review and amendment of VAPP law.
Okay,
you're
talking about the roles the lawmakers have to play. What about the citizens and advocacy groups? What then should we do? I mean, to register our concern to the senators that we are not supporting this repealing.
That was why you see activities, civil society has started mobilizing, calling. There was the other day webinar where this issue is being discussed. A lot of people are tagging, people are, there is already sensitization awareness calling people, everybody, all is to get to mobilize more people to talk about it. One of the things we are doing here is part of it. We are lending our voice, speaking out, and people wherever they are hearing now. They'll begin to, anybody that hears this should join mouth and begin to talk. Please, we don't need this law to be repealed. Let it be reviewed and amended. That is what everybody should be talking about.
It's quite unfortunate because things like this, they should have called for public hearing, where people will air their opinion. But of course, we are in a country where people can just wake up one morning and decide, and pass a law. But then we will do what we are doing here. We'll continue, lending our voices, and at least we have a man in our midst who is also supporting the movement.
Of course, I'm supporting the movement, even though I'm overwhelmed by number here. But then I'll still.
Number is not the issue. Joining forces together.
Sincerely speaking, when I read that this thing came from the Senate, as in these are people that we elected to protect our interests, and then they now are jettisoning what really makes us more human than what the society actually provides, and then it begins to make you worry. What is the intent of our Senate when things like this are happening? And I was happy when the young man said that with this problem that we are facing in this country, he's well aware that we are facing a lot of... He's well aware that we are facing this, but they are not tackling the problems that Nigeria
is creating more problems.
Now telling us that people can actually rape people and then go
Exactly.
You understand? That you can walk on the street and then your right is impeded and nothing happens to you. But, well, I believe that our voice will not be said. We're not speaking just as for say's sake in the wilderness, but we believe that this uniform voice that we're using to speak for this thing will definitely get the desired attention that it needs.
Well, on that note, we want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us on the show this morning. Thank you so much, Hopo Koye, for being here this morning.
It's a privilege, and I'm happy to be here.
And also, Barrister Ngozi Madecheste, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Much obliged.
All right. My name is Chidima Oran. I want to say a very big thank you to you out there that joined us on the discussion this morning. And we want to humbly appeal to the senators to please see reasons with us and try and see if we can just go with reviewing this particular act, not repealing at the end of the day. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Ajuru Chukwuka is my name. Tomorrow we'll definitely get to do it again. Bye for now.